Hi, my name is Shubha Ghosh. I'm a professor at the University of Wisconsin Law School, and I'm going to talk about transactional intellectual property, which is the successor edition to Intellectual Property in Business Organizations that was first published in 2006. The focus of the book is, as the title suggests, how intellectual property is used in business transactions. And the initial title, as I mentioned, was Intellectual Property in Business Organizations, so it's meant to be a cross-disciplinary book between business law and intellectual property. But the focus of the book is thinking about intellectual property in transactional terms. So that would be things like startup companies, licensing, antitrust issues, mergers, acquisitions, valuation of intellectual property. So the way in which intellectual property is used as a business asset is the focus of the book. So the book has lots of different places in the curriculum for a course that deals with intellectual property. One way, and that's the way I've taught it, is to teach it in an advanced sort of capstone course, usually third-year students who've had some background in intellectual property and business law. So that would be business corporation law, unincorporated associations, and they want to see sort of practical issues on how intellectual property is used in those types of contexts. But my co-authors and I, Richard Gruner at John Marshall Law School and Jay Keeson at the University of Illinois Law School, also think it could be used as an introductory IP course. So in that way, it's a bit different than other intellectual property survey books that are there, which focus more on the constitutional issues or some of the broader policy issues. We've designed the book to synthesize and integrate both the policy issues and sort of the practice issues. Well, it's been, 5 years, so I think it's involved in the same way that transactional issues have evolved in the legal curriculum. So many law schools want to teach more transactional skill-related courses, and some of those can come up in the first year. So for example, in a contract course, they would teach things like contract drafting and contract negotiation. And so our book has evolved in the same way, but along intellectual property lines. So the book has developed through using not just simply traditional cases and statutes, but also using practicing law institute materials and other practical materials to basically teach and expose students to transactional skills. And so the main way in which the second edition differs from the first edition is, first of all, incorporating more case studies. So there's several interesting business case studies, which is a unique approach in a law case book. And so the business case studies are similar to the kind of case studies you might see in business school, but they're more focused on the legal aspect of a business development and business transactions. And so that's one important innovation, the 4 case studies that make up the book. We've also integrated materials on the Bayh-Dole Act, which has to do with university commercialization of intellectual property. And so this is one of the first case books that has extensive discussion of the recent U.S. Supreme Court decision in Stanford versus Roche, and also has extensive background on the Bayh-Dole Act and how universities and other nonprofit entities engage in intellectual property development and commercialization. Yeah, the book is very flexible in terms of its usage for either a 4-credit, 3-credit, or 2-credit class. The structure of the book is to look at the life cycle of a business from startup to the issues that affect more mature companies, such as antitrust and bankruptcy and mergers and acquisitions. So a full-blown 4-credit class would cover the entire life cycle, but shorter classes can focus on things like a startup or focus on antitrust issues. So there's an incredible flexibility in the types of courses that the book can be used for. We had the idea for the book. I think each of us as co-authors had independent ideas of the book, and I met Richard and Jay, my co-authors, at a conference, and we realized we had kind of hit on the same idea, and that is There are a lot of intellectual property books that focus on the policy and the constitutional issues, and some that deal and focus on the litigation issues, but a large part of intellectual property practice involves licensing and transactional, and there were no books that dealt with that. So we felt there was a market niche for it. We knew that several universities and law schools were developing courses in this area, and so that was largely the motivation for starting the book. And I should emphasize there's also a fairly extensive teacher's manual. We've revised it from the first edition and have included new materials that really would guide professors in structuring the course. Well, we really enjoyed working on the first edition, and we're excited about the second one. We really added a lot of material and made this a real, even a stronger crossover book. So whether you focus on intellectual property or you focus on business organizations, I think there are lots of materials for either faculty member to enjoy and to create a whole new class in this particular area. And so if there are any further questions I can help you with, feel free to contact me.